In the meantime, back here at home, major shakeup rocking the police department in Portland. We talked about this a few moments ago. An indictment against an officer apparently prompting all 50 members of the riot squad to resign from that team. Here to talk about it, former Detroit Police Chief James Craig. How you doing, Chief? Good morning to you. Well, what are they going to do in Portland, do you think?
You know, I got to tell you, Bill, not a surprise. In fact, I'm surprised it's taken this long. You know, failed leadership, and I don't even like to associate someone who sits in the seat of a mayor with leadership, but a seat of influence. And what we saw in Portland is an example of when you don't support the men and women who do that difficult job each and every day. Those police officers demoralized, they have no support, and the people that suffer are the people who live in the city, the people who have businesses in the city, and they just can't seem to get it right. So for me, not a surprise. A surprise it took this long.
Yeah, you know, Dana and I talk a lot about the qualified immunity, and a lot of these cities are getting rid of it. I mean, New York's one of them. That's another like shot to the gut of these police officers, right? When they know that they don't have backup, literally in the legal sense.
There is no backup. And when you look at the attrition rate in New York right now, the fact that their council voted to strip qualified immunity away from those men and women who serve, that's a veiled effort to dismantle policing as we know it. So now they're moving away from talking about defunding, but they're still peddling this issue called in qualified immunity. I got to tell you something. Let's talk about Chicago and Mayor Lightfoot. You know, I like what Leo Terrell said the other day. This is not a gun problem. It's a criminal problem. And she needs to be held responsible, and she needs to be held accountable for her failures. It's sad what I see going on in Chicago.
So what's happening in Chicago? Lori Lightfoot's asking the feds to come in and help with the illegal guns. You mentioned Leo Terrell. He said this yesterday about that issue in Chicago. Okay, so in a moment, we'll get it in a moment. He was debating Geraldo in our program. What he was arguing is that during the Trump administration, they said, you know, we'll give you federal help. Here's Terrell. Watch.
We don't have too many guns. We got too many criminals. And Lori Lightfoot is playing political gamesmanship. Now she's begging for the federal government to help. The federal government wanted to help her last year. She said no. She is just an opportunist. Those are typical Democratic talking points.
Well, Chief, that's your point, right?
He said it best. He's absolutely right. This is political gamesmanship. You know, the progressives will sit up and talk about, you know, it's a gun problem, or let's have gun buybacks so we can show that we're getting guns off the street. It does not work because the rules do not apply to criminals. Criminals are the ones that get a hold of guns. It's not gun buybacks. It's not a gun problem. It's a failed criminal justice system. I'm not talking about the men and women of the Chicago Police Department, because I've had a chance to talk to many of them, and they feel demoralized. They're leaving. They don't feel the support.
The other thing the mayor in Chicago said, she said systemic racism is to blame. I don't know what your view on that is, but her quote was 80% of health outcomes are due to social factors, including housing, safety, education, economic opportunity. Safety was the second thing she mentioned. What do you think of that?
That's ridiculous. Her crisis is crime. And what she's also not saying, like so many who sit in those type of seats in many of these cities, is who talks for the victims? What about the residents who live in vulnerable communities, who are also many persons of color? Who speaks for them? Not Lori Lightfoot. The crisis is violent crime in Chicago. And you're talking about 13,000, I believe that's the number, 13,000 men and women who serve in that great city. I visited Chicago recently, Bill, had a chance to talk to some of the police officers. I was shocked at what I saw on Miracle Mile, shocked. And I love the city of Chicago.
As do I. Thank you, Chief. We'll talk again soon. James Craig, thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.